I'm sitting at Gran Betty's heavy oak kitchen table again this morning. The same table where she planned every Sunday roast, wrote every shopping list, and solved what she used to call the weekly supermarket puzzle. The kettle has just clicked off. The clock above the door is ticking the same steady rhythm it always has. And the sunlight is falling across the flour tin exactly the way it did when she was here. But her chair is empty now. Gran Betty passed away recently, and I've been slowly sorting through the cupboards she kept so carefully organised for decades. If you had opened one of her cupboards, you'd have thought you'd stepped into a very orderly little museum. Tins lined up like soldiers, labels facing forward, older items always at the front, newer ones tucked behind. Gran Betty used to say, "A tidy cupboard is a tidy budget." And while clearing the larder this March, I found something that made me laugh out loud. Her notebook. Gran Betty spent about 40 years studying the supermarket, the way some people study chess openings. She believed grocery shopping was a game, not a stressful chore, a game. And she absolutely refused to lose. Every trick she spotted, every price change, every clever bit of packaging, she wrote it down in this little battered leather notebook. When I opened the first page, I found 2 cereal boxes taped inside. One from last year, one she bought just before she passed. Next to them she had drawn a giant red arrow pointing at the bottom of the newer box. And she had written in that neat, slightly dramatic handwriting of hers, "Darling, they've tucked the bottom of this box up so high, it's practically wearing a pair of stilts." Even now she's still catching them. Because Gran Betty used to say there are 3 supermarket tricks most shoppers never notice. Shrinkflation is the first. The second one is sneakier. And the third one is the one that quietly costs families the most money every year. Gran Betty called shrinkflation the invisible thief. She started noticing it long before people started talking about it on the news. She'd pick up a jar, squint at it, and say something like,
This jar seems to have gone on a diet."
The price might still say £3.40, but the weight, quietly smaller. Biscuits that used to come 14 in a pack now arrive as 12. Chocolate bars lose 20 grams. Cereal boxes get taller, but somehow lighter. Gran Betty would adjust her glasses and say, "A thief in a fancy suit is still a thief, and I don't invite them to tea." One of the pages in her notebook made me pause for a moment. She had written the same product 3 times in red pen. Peanut butter. 2018, 400 grams. 2022, 370 grams. 2025, 340 grams. Same jar, same shelf price. Underneath she had written, "They didn't raise the price, they quietly removed breakfast." Gran Betty had another favourite line, "If the packaging looks fancy, check the weight twice." And another, "Food companies hope you shop with your eyes instead of your calculator." Now, Gran Betty didn't just complain about these tricks. She built systems, little habits that made the tricks almost irrelevant. Her first system was something she called the Unit Price Audit. Every Tuesday morning she would take her time walking through the supermarket. She ignored the big colourful price tags, ignored the giant yellow offer signs, ignored the 2 for £5 promotions. Instead, she looked at the tiny number on the shelf edge, the price per 100 grams, or the price per litre. She would tap the shelf label and say, "The smaller the print, the bigger the truth." Last week I tried it myself. I found a family-sized laundry powder box that looked like a bargain. But when I checked the unit price, it actually cost more per wash than the smaller box beside it. Gran Betty would have laughed and said, "Never trust a giant package with a hollow heart." Then she'd add, "A supermarket offer is just a suggestion. The unit price is the truth." That's supermarket trick number 2. Unit price traps. Bigger doesn't always mean cheaper. Gran Betty knew supermarkets were counting on people being busy, tired, distracted, but she never rushed through a shop. I can still hear the sound of her pencil tapping the shopping list. She treated shopping like a chess match, and she absolutely refused to lose. But the trick that costs families the most money every year is something Gran Betty called the convenience tax. That's the third trick. Pre-chopped vegetables, grated cheese, sliced fruit, ready-prepared ingredients. All of them cost far more than the exact same food in its natural form. I remember standing beside her in the vegetable aisle once. A small bag of chopped carrots cost £1.80. Right beside it was a full kilogram of whole carrots for 60p. Gran Betty picked up the muddy carrots and said, "If you're too posh to peel, you're too poor to complain." Then she added another line she loved. "Supermarkets sell convenience. Smart shoppers buy ingredients." Her system was simple. Buy whole food. Prep once. Store smart. 10 minutes of chopping on Sunday can save pounds every week. Gran Betty always said, 10 minutes of preparation saves £10 of frustration. But her cleverest system was something she called the extender. If mince was expensive, she didn't complain. She stretched it, half mince, half something clever. Red lentils, finely chopped mushrooms, or her secret weapon, blitzed oats. The result? More volume, more fibre, half the cost per portion. Gran Betty would smile and say, "A clever cook stretches flavour, not the budget." Another system she believed in was what she called seasonal advantage. "Never build meals around brands," she used to say. "Build meals around prices." When vegetables flooded the market, she bought extra. When prices rose later in the year, her freezer was already full. Gran Betty called this buying in the vintage cycle. When nature floods the market, she'd say, that's when you stock the cellar. But the most powerful habit in Gran Betty's kitchen happened before she even left the house. She called it shopping the house. Before every grocery trip, she opened every cupboard, every drawer, every freezer basket. She checked what needed using first. Old tins moved to the front, new tins went behind. Gran Betty's rule was simple. Food in the cupboard is money in the bank. Because forgotten food becomes wasted money, and wasted money leads to emergency supermarket runs. Those are the dangerous ones. You run in for one thing, and somehow leave £20 lighter. Gran Betty would close the cupboard door and say, "Empty cupboards create expensive decisions." But she also believed in preparing quietly for the future. She used to warn that food prices often follow energy prices. When fuel rises, transport rises. When transport rises, food rises. She called it a price storm, and when she saw one coming, she had a calm little system. Quiet preparation. If Gran Betty were sitting here right now, she'd slide that notebook across the table and say, "Right then, darling, here's what we do this week." First, identify the 5 foods your household buys every week: bread, milk, rice, pasta, oats, cooking oil. If the price is still normal, buy 1 extra, not 10, just 1. Gran Betty always said, 1 extra tin today prevents a £10 shock tomorrow. Second, build what she called a Ten-Tin Pantry. Rice, pasta, beans, lentils, oats, flour, cooking oil, tinned tomatoes, frozen vegetables, stock cubes. Gran Betty believed those 10 things created a safety net. A pantry isn't a cupboard, she used to say. It's a shield. Third, start a rotating larder. Nothing sits forgotten. Old food moves forward, new food goes behind. You eat through the pantry like a slow-moving river. Gran Betty's rule: a full larder is the best insurance policy a woman can own. She had one more rule that confused everyone. Gran Betty never used a trolley, only a basket. Her reasoning was simple. If the basket gets heavy, you stop buying nonsense. And she had another. She never went shopping hungry, but she also never went too comfortable. Gran Betty wore slightly uncomfortable shoes. Her logic was simple. If your feet want to leave the shop quickly, you buy less nonsense. I found something on the last page of her notebook that stopped me for a moment. It was a sentence she had circled 3 times in red ink. It simply said, "The supermarket is a game. Learn the rules." Sitting here at her kitchen table now, I realized Gran Betty wasn't just saving money, she was protecting her family. She was building freedom. Freedom from panic shopping. Freedom from supermarket tricks. Freedom from empty cupboards at the end of the month. So Gran Betty would probably give you 2 little challenges this week. First, check 5 products in your supermarket for shrinkflation. Look at the weight. Look at the unit price. Look at what quietly disappeared. Second, start your own little pantry reserve, even if it's just a few extra tins. Gran Betty believed the moment shoppers start noticing the tricks stop working, and she would absolutely love hearing what you find. Tell us in the comments. Gran Betty always enjoyed comparing notes about supermarket nonsense. If Gran Betty's wisdom helped you today, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone whose grocery bill keeps creeping up, and subscribe so Gran Betty's kitchen table stays open to anyone who wants smarter money habits. And if you enjoyed this story, you'll love the rest of Gran Betty's Money Wisdom series. There are many more of her little systems waiting to be shared. Gran Betty always said something I'm only now beginning to understand. Money saved in the kitchen is money that buys freedom everywhere else. And I'll see you in the next one.